Hey folks, today's episode of the Stronger is Better podcast is going to be a little bit different. I sat down with Harry Fafutis from Tavros Strength in Mexico. He is a longtime starting strength coach and a good friend of mine. He's also the translator of Starting Strength into the Spanish edition, which is available on the Starting Strength store and on Amazon. Harry has been training and coaching for a while. He has gotten into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the self-defense world, gotten impressively strong, gotten really big, lost weight, and has a really beautiful and successful gym down in Mexico. So anyway, about maybe 7 or 8 months ago, he visited Wichita Falls for a seminar, and we did a little bit of training, a little bit of BJJ training, and sat down for a podcast episode, which he is running on his YouTube channel. You can find him under Harry Fafutis. And we thought that we would run it on Stronger is Better because primarily he did a good job of pretty much asking questions that only someone who is involved in both the strength training, coaching, or in all three, coaching, strength training, and fight training could talk about really, really well. So anyway, I think it turned out really well. I was able to discuss my thoughts in terms of how hard physical effort makes people better, and my thoughts on how learning to fight and thinking about self-defense is important for everybody. So I hope you enjoy it. There is a little bit of an audio hiccup about halfway through, so you'll hear about 5 to 10 minutes of the audio being weird, but that's again that was a problem during the shoot. The audio does come back towards the end. Well, I hope you enjoy it, and as usual, if you have any questions, comments, or if you have any topic ideas, please send them to podcast@startingstrengthgyms.com or podcast@ssgyms.com. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.
How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man.
Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure to always visit. I want to talk with you about your professional development.
Okay.
You've been a role model to me since
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, since we started meeting each other, and I was coming here for increasing my knowledge in strength and conditioning, barbell training. I always saw you as a very interesting guy, very curious man, looking for ways to develop himself. And I remember listening to one podcast, somebody was asking you questions about your professional development, and maybe you talk with me about that first so that you give us some background about your life, your professional life, and maybe also the way this mixes up with self-defense and your view on all of these topics about like strength, conditioning, self-defense, even like masculinity, manhood, and how all of that plays a role into your professional life and the way you have been able to make it a lifestyle pretty much.
Yep.
Something that you actually enjoy, you're passionate about, teaching it, all of those things.
Yep.
Maybe give us some background on that first.
Okay. Yeah, I think over the years I've realized that I'm like coaching is my thing, right? So I think that was the thing that I was put here to do is to coach and teach. So I've always enjoyed that, even when I was, in school and in high school and stuff, I was always sort of coaching people and helping them out with learning things. So I've always enjoyed that aspect of it. And then the physical part of it, I think, I don't know where that came from. I think a lot of it is a thing in my mind that I need to find ways to feel confident. It's like even as a little kid. So like whenever I would do something, if I started a sport, for example, I don't know how I figured this out, but it makes so much sense, but I think a lot of people don't consider it and don't implement it, right? But I think at some point in my life, I figured out that the time I put in doing something is gonna give me dividends, right? So, like for example, I remember in middle school, and this is probably it is kind of silly, but this is like the first thing I can remember where things started to click for me. I was really big into rollerblading, really big into roller hockey. So like I played roller hockey almost every day. I was on a league and stuff like that. And the first time I got into like roller skating, and I had cheap skates with like hard wheels, right? And I was okay like skating and stuff. I was okay at hockey and everything. And then the first time I got on like a sport court, you know what that is? It's like a plastic flooring that sometimes they have for basketball and stuff like that. My wheels were just like sliding all over the place, and I couldn't even stand up. And so anyway, like I figured that out and got some new wheels. But that summer, like I was just like, man, like if I can't skate, I can't like I'm not good. Like I'm just gonna be sitting there watching everybody play. And I got obsessive, you know. I mean, I was like, and again, this is silly, and I was a big kid, but so I was this like biggest kid rolling around on roller skates, but like hours and hours and hours every day, right? And then man, like I didn't realize it because it's kind of like a fun thing. I was having a good time, and then the very next time the season came up, I had proper wheels for one, but also like nobody could recognize me in terms of like how I was playing. They're like, where did you come from? You know, because I was just like, and it clicked in my head. I was like, well, shit, you know, that was like fun. It was awesome. It was a skill that I wanted to learn anyway. And I got really good, like really good. And then like different things in my life have come in, like playing guitar, for example. Like I kind of get obsessive about things and I just do it all the time. So I spent most of my like middle school, high school we didn't have the internet, right? So, or at least not what it's like today. So spent lots of hours just sitting in front of the TV playing guitar, and I get really good, right? And then that kind of transferred into my physical activities too. I got into football and then got into barbell training, and then I liked it, and then I got like, again, obsessive about it and lifting, and I ended up kind of being the at least for my grade level, you know, and even for some of the older kids, I was kind of like, whenever they would start, or like the basketball team would come and I would help them like learn how to do the lifts and stuff. So yeah, anyway, man, I mean, to kind of keep the story short, throughout my life, I've had various jobs and careers, you know, to make money and to support my family and stuff. When I was single, and coming out of college and then coming out of my first jobs, I got into martial arts. So I got into Muay Thai and submission grappling, and that became like my obsession at that point, right? So, I mean, I was training 25, sometimes 30 hours a week.
But what made you start? Like, what was the thing that clicked to be like, I need to do this?
I mean, I think like most men, like I think fighting is at least in the back of your head, like something that you feel like you should be good at. I feel like I think a lot of men think they know how to fight and stuff, but I've always kind of had this like dose of reality that's like, man, I don't know what to do. And like, that's really cool. I want to do it. Right. And just it was kind of like just a luck thing or whatever. My brother's boss was involved in Muay Thai, and I had no idea what Muay Thai was. And I had always like driven by the martial arts schools, the Taekwondo schools and stuff. I was like, I want to go in there. I want to check it out. Never did, right? So this opportunity came up, and we went down. It was downtown St. Louis, and I walked in there, and it's like, I mean, you know how Muay Thai is, right? You walk in, and there's women in there, there's skinny guys, there's big guys, and they're holding the pads, and it's like wham, you know, you just hear that sound, and I was like, damn, like this is really cool. This is what I want to do. But no, I always kind of wanted to learn how to fight. You know, I would read books and stuff. I wasn't really into martial arts movies or anything. It's just like, I think it was just kind of like playing football, playing rugby, doing physical sports. There's no like, I think I just needed a kind of physical sort of violent outlet for things, you know? So I think it was just natural, man. There was no like instance where I like got beat up or something. Yeah. You know, I got picked on and bullied. We moved a lot, so I got picked on and bullied, just probably like any other kid does. So maybe there's an aspect of that in there too, but there was no like single thing that was like, I was just looking for a physical challenge, maybe is the way to think about it. And that fit in really nice, right? Because it's like, that's a deep, the martial arts, like actual,
say universe.
Well, actual fighting, you know, and really all martial arts. But if you want to talk about actual like either combat sports or self-defense, there's a lot of depth there and a lot of opportunity to just kind of get fully into it, right? So that was kind of the natural progression. Through the Muay Thai stuff, the folks that I was involved with, they had. My instructor had like a security service, so I started getting into security, and then the teaching thing kind of came in there too. So, you know, we would go in and teach bouncers in bars and clubs how to do security properly, because none of them know how, right? They all just want to fight all the time. So, I got into teaching like the self-defense stuff through being a bouncer, and then I spent lots of years as a bouncer. And then I really liked the grappling side. We didn't do it very often. It was just like once a week, but I really liked it, And then years down the road, I got into Krav Maga, started teaching Krav Maga shortly after I started doing that. And then through Krav Maga, I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because we had a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program at our school. I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then I realized that was a whole other like thing that was so foreign. My first coach, JW Wright, I don't remember if he was a brown belt at the time, or maybe a black belt already, but he's half my size. He's a little guy. No offense, JW, but I mean, relatively speaking, right? But dude, the first time he came and taught a class, I had my gi on and stuff, and he probably a butterfly sweep, but he flipped me right over his head. And, I was over 300 pounds, and he's whatever, 140, 150 or something. And at that moment I was like, if he can do that to me, and this is after years of Thai boxing and submission grappling and, and bouncing and stuff like that. If he can do that to me with no effort, like, this is exactly what I need to be doing, right? So that was like kind of the next thing. And then over the years, just moving around, going to different Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools and stuff. That's, I think in terms of like what I've focused on in terms of depth in the martial arts world, it's been Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, obviously. Like, I have a school now, and the self-defense stuff that I teach now is heavily focused on not necessarily Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but in terms of like a grappling and clinch environment, right? So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I guess to answer your question, it's just been like I've just kind of followed my my interests, and I have gotten deep interests, and then along the way, becoming the starting strength thing was a part of the self-defense thing, because I was into I was teaching conditioning classes, and then, having done barbells in high school, I found CrossFit, and then I found RIP through CrossFit. And then the starting strength, I mean, it just kind of comes naturally if you're interested in analyzing and coaching in a good method for doing things, right? So kind of layered that on top, and then starting strength became my full-time thing. And now, we're at the point where it's starting strength gyms, starting strength podcast, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then just helping the gyms grow, right? So.
Well, something that I admire a lot from you, that I've seen you like develop throughout the years, is all of these skills. Like, if I could describe you professionally, you're just like a jack of all trades, right? Because you started coaching martial arts, and then I think at some point you started working with Rip because he needed someone to manage like the media stuff, and then you had to learn photography and editing and podcasting. And now here you are with all of these highly valued skills that any business requires to thrive.
No, that's absolutely right. And it's, again, it wasn't intentional. It's just stuff that I enjoyed. The other big aspect of my life, right? Because I've been married now for 16 years, 17 years coming up on, maybe 18, long time, right? But I mean, that's a big chunk of your professional life. In terms of your most productive time and all that, right? So late 20s all the way to now, I'm 42 or 43. But I've been really lucky that like my wife is into jiu-jitsu. Like, we own this school together, so that there's that, and my kids are into it, and then also like all this just things that in most men's lives are like can be seen as like silly hobbies. I've been really lucky that she's like totally supportive, and I mean, we've kind of anything that, like, imagine this, man. We're sitting in Reno. I have a good job and a stable situation, and then I tell her, hey, Ripito just called and he offered me a job. Should we go? And then, I mean, imagine how that would go with a significant other. She was just like, yeah, let's go. So that's, I can't discount like how valuable that is, right? So I've been lucky to be supported, and be able to just do God, whatever I want, So it's like photography is expensive, video is expensive, taking classes is expensive. Upping my skills, like the time away, like in terms of getting shooting certifications, spending time going and learning from like different people from ShivWorks and the Combatives Association and stuff like that. All that takes a lot of time. Somehow I've managed to make my life in such a way that like I make money from all those things, so it works out well. But still, yeah, it's been. I mean, it's a lot of work. So for sure, man. The photography thing is something that I was just again interested in. I thought I started in school. I went to college for architecture. I've done some design school and stuff like that. Ultimately, I ended up leaving college, but that kind of I guess artistic thing has always been a part of my life too. So photography was just kind of an outlet for that, right? And then I've always been interested in it. And then through working with the Asgard company, it was just an opportunity again to like make it a part of my job and my career. And then as a result of that, your skills just have to get better and better, right?
And that's why I say you've been a role model to me in many ways, but specifically because of what you just said, which is you make money while having fun and doing the things that you like. That is a very privileged position to have. Like, not like I would say that's less than 5% of the world population. And
sorry to interrupt you, but I remember deciding a long time ago that I would not spend my life doing things that made me miserable.
Right.
And I did spend a lot of time doing that because you got to pay the bills, right? So, I don't know if like that kind of just having that in your brain and maybe having that as a motivator is kind of what got us to where we are today. But I mean, you know how it is with friends, family, people. They're just like basically working to get to the weekend or get to the vacation once a year or whatever. So that almost and I would do that if I had to, obviously, right? We always joke that like all this is made up, right? It's like if all of a sudden people don't want to do jiu-jitsu anymore, if all of a sudden nobody wants to lift weights or the economy crashes or something, we'll have to get it done. However, but like you said, it's a privilege to be able to do all this stuff like this.
It is.
I don't have any problem like getting things done when we need to. But yeah, that's been a big motivator, I think, for my future. And something I want to kind of pass on to my kids is like you should be able to kind of drive your own destiny.
You should, and I think the internet has been a big leverage for people like us who really want to make a living out of the stuff that we genuinely like.
Yep.
And that's where you come into my story, which is I saw you doing all these things, came to the first seminar. I think that was back in 2016. I was just finding out about all of this. And let me share a little bit of that with you because it's important. I did have a fight at a bar when I was like 19-year-old kid, very skinny. And I didn't lose the fight, but it was just like a very short fight. I was trying to like grapple with the guy, the normal high school thing you do, the headlock. And my shoulder got like tweaked somehow, and I couldn't fight anymore because I felt it almost dislocating. And then he beat me like 2-3 times, and I was skinny, and that was like the wake up moment for me, where I was man, I'm very vulnerable, and I don't like this. I was into swimming because I had a back injury, and the doctor told me that I should swim to get the back stronger.
Right.
And I did that for like 2 years because I'm like very disciplined, but I never felt the back stronger or healthier.
Yep.
And I was very skinny. And then that like bottom line event happened where it was a wake up moment for me. And then I started looking for options like, okay, I'm skinny and weak. I need to fix that first. So I found the starting strength world and the importance of being strong, especially as a man, I would think. And I did the whole program. I got stronger. I enjoyed the process, and I thought, well, this is very important. I need to, nobody knows about this in Mexico, Latin America, or even the world still. This is a small world, and people still think of physical culture in terms of just the superficial cosmetic
For sure.
aspect of it, and there's just so much more to going to the gym than just like growing your biceps, you know. So I got strong, and then as I was getting stronger, my idea and my ultimate goal was eventually to become a functional man and be capable of defending myself when it comes to such an event that like the one I had at the bar.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember, but like 5 years ago, coming up to the seminars for auditing and keeping my certification, I asked you once, like, hey Nick, I want to get into self-defense. This is important to me. I did the foundational work, which is get strong first, in my opinion.
And you did, right? You were real strong.
I was real strong.
You gained quite a bit of weight.
I was at my heaviest 250 pounds. Oh, man. I got to pressing 310. I pulled a 635.
Jesus, man. You did it right.
Yeah, I was very strong. And then I asked you, like, hey, man, I did this already. What's next? How do I get into self-defense? And I think you told me you recommended Krav Maga first. And I told you that we didn't have that in where I live in Guadalajara. And then you recommended, well, maybe you just try Jiu-Jitsu. It's a more complete martial art for the purpose of self-defense.
Right.
And I think you're right. Like the way I look at self-defense is you need like 4 core skills, which is grappling and takedowns, learning how to fight on the floor, and then it's striking, punching, kicking, fighting on the floor, and grappling when you're standing so that you can take somebody down. So that's 4 skills. And Jiu-Jitsu has 2 out of the 4.
Yep. Yeah, and the other 2 are easy to plug in if you understand fighting. Yeah, there's another important aspect that and we always tend to talk about it in terms of the hard skills, right? It's like the grappling, the striking, the actual like within a fight thing, but there's also, in terms of self-defense, there's all the soft skills too, right? It's avoiding the fight, like deconflicting a situation, like making it less, lowering the stakes, right? Getting ego out of the way. All those things are like, and when you start talking, like in the US, right, we carry guns and knives and stuff around. So it's not going to be just a fist fight sometimes, right? It could be potentially way worse. And one of the huge benefits of training, and you know this, I think, right? But one of the huge benefits of training is that you release all that like ego energy that dudes have just inherently, where you like, I don't have any interest in fighting anybody. Ever,
no,
like at all. Like if there's a situation in my day-to-day life, road rage or whatever, it doesn't bother me at all. Like zero. I have no interest, right? And I don't ever intend to do jiu-jitsu with somebody who's like trying to attack me or beat me up. Like that's not gonna happen, right? Because that's a terrible idea. But in terms of self-defense, yeah, I probably told you was if you find the right Krav Maga school, that's the way to go. And I know of some affiliates in Mexico, but I don't think they were near you, right? I think they were in somewhere else, but who are really good and understand fighting. But generally, yeah, my advice is going to be to do jiu-jitsu because you're learning from day one under pressure the most fundamental thing, which is you wanting to do something to somebody else that they don't want you to do, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the longer you do this, the kind of more you understand. All fighting is ultimately just you trying to control another person physically, right? And striking is one thing, but striking has so much associated with it in terms of being proficient that it's easy to kind of like not actually get into the fighting aspect of it in terms of the self-defense. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're athletic, if you're fast, if you have good reflexes, if you're not scared to get hit, those are all things that are going to like make you a better striker automatically, right? And on top of that, if you are learning how to be a striker, like if you're learning boxing, you're learning Muay Thai, there's a long learning curve before you get real pressure, meaning like, 100% you and I are going to fight. Now you can do that, but it's unsafe and you're just going to get your ass kicked. And then on top of that, it's like blunt force trauma to the head and there's all those downsides, right? So with jiu-jitsu, I mean, nothing is safe, right? But in terms of being able to apply pressure and being able to do that thing, which is like, I want to hold you down and make you quit fighting, whether it's through like an arm lock or a choke, or just pressure or whatever, right? And you don't want me to do that. And we can do that from the very first day. day one, right? So you're learning fundamental fighting skills. You're learning fundamental things about range and pressure and control and how to hold somebody down and how to make space and how to take space. That's what fighting is all about. And jiu-jitsu gives you that from day one, right? So it's not like jiu-jitsu in and of itself teaches you self-defense, but it gives you the foundation. And all you, for self-defense purposes, you just have to, it's just like, you already have everything there. Sometimes it's just the application. Like it's just a little bit of a shift in terms of an approach. You can attend a weekend course specifically on self-defense, like through ShivWorks or something like that. And that sets you up for a whole year of like being good to go in terms of self-defense. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. It makes total sense. And the reason I ask is because you probably know this from experience as well. You get into something and then you like to share it with your acquaintances and friends, especially me. I have a gym. I have lots of clients. I have lots of men. And I try to like talk them into this. Of course, it's not like you can do whatever you want, but the reason you're here at my gym, the way I see it, is because you need to get strong first, like I did,
right?
So that you can then use that strength for a more useful physical activity.
Yep.
And especially because I have lots of parents, like dads of 2-3 kids, they're starting to grow older, and then they start to realize the importance of the physicality in general.
Right.
And I always tell them, guys, this is the first part. Like you're in phase 0, which is strength foundation.
Yes.
After that, you gotta learn martial arts. Yep. And then I tell them, I'm gonna take you to a jiu-jitsu class. And then they're like, but like that looks so gay, like, you know, and they have all this like all this no's that it's hard to convince them.
Sure.
And maybe like I'm asking you just to make the case so that people can see from your experience why this is so important. It's like, I think with strength training, you have this like 2 tiers of clients, which is client tier A is, I want to get strong, I enjoy the process. Client tier B is, I am very smart, I hate lifting weights.
Yeah.
And this is just my medicine that I need to swallow.
Yeah.
And then I'm done with the day. That's like, us, we love to grapple, it's fun, but many guys will not like it.
Yep.
They need to look at it as medicine for their lives, you know. It's like self-defense.
I got you. Yeah. In terms of lifting, I'm definitely a category B person at this point in my life.
Me too.
For sure. It's necessary. It's like you said, it's medicine. I have to do it. In terms of learning self-defense or learning to fight. Let me just make this point real quick. No matter what you're doing, in terms of self-defense and fighting, the most fundamental piece of that equation is fitness, right? So if you don't have a base, so your point about getting strong first is really good, especially if that's going to be like the entry point for somebody to getting into self-defense or just being more capable in general, right? So the foundation of athleticism is really important. And I've started to think about this in terms of athleticism because I think it makes more sense. And if you say athleticism, then you can consider all of the things that athleticism requires. And like you and I know, the most fundamental piece of that is going to be the force production or the strength aspect of it. So you cannot fight if you don't have, you can't fight effectively if you don't have some strength and some conditioning, right? The benefit of actually training is that conditioning kind of comes with it, and then the lifting gives you a high level of strength, right? Because people are going to get stronger if they're if they haven't been training anything at all and they start doing something like jiu-jitsu, they are going to get stronger. I mean, we don't argue that at all, right? But that's going to have a cap. You're only going to get as strong as like your day-to-day training requires you to be. So the idea is to bring your level up as high as you can, as quickly as you can, so then you have a really broad base of strength, and then your performance from day one is much better, right? So in terms of actually learning self-defense, the reasons to learn self-defense, I don't usually start with like you have to know how to fight somebody who's attacking you, right? I think that's, at least at this point in my life, and in my way of thinking, that's a side benefit. And to me personally, that's very important, right? Like
in my head, there's always a dude who's going to try to attack me or my family who knows how to fight better than me, who knows how to shoot better than me, and is way trickier than me, right? So like that's one of the things, like it sounds insane, but that's one of the things that has driven me as I've started training, right? Because I think objectively, somebody who's like a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and can shoot well to a certain standard and is relatively strong and relatively fit, has all the pieces they need to deal with almost any self-defense situation, right? Any dangerous situation. But here I am after, almost 20 years of fighting, and I'm still in the back of my head like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if somebody like, I don't know, somebody broke into my house, it's like, objectively, I have the skills to be able to deal with that, but it's like, there's a thing in my head that's like, I gotta get better.
That's how I still feel.
Yeah.
I thought like, I do jiu-jitsu 2-3 years, I get the blue belt, and I'm gonna feel perfect.
No, it never goes that way. You just feel worse.
Yeah.
That's right. Funny. Yeah, you just feel worse, man. So be a white belt for as long as you can, right? Because it's like the greatest time. There's no expectations of you, right? Yeah. It's just like all you have to do is get better. So yeah, that's a thing, and I don't know if that's healthy or not, but I think that's probably. I do think it's probably healthy. I think that's maybe what is. Got us as a civilization to where we are, where it's like you're kind of worried about threats, But again, we're channeling that into some productive endeavors like lifting and shooting well and having this awesome community of people we like grapple with and we have a good time, right? So again, just to give you my perspective, the main benefit of something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it allows us to just express this innate, like, I hate to use the word primal because it's kind of like goofy, but like seriously, man. I mean, it's like the first thing we did is fight each other,
Yeah.
In our evolution for a long time. So you watch little kids play, you watch animals play, and the first thing they do is just kind of mess around and grapple and sort of like play fight, right? So and when I watch kids, like teaching the kids has been eye opening because it's just so natural for them to just want to wrestle, to want to wrestle around. So. In terms of being relatively low risk, in terms of giving you like all these conditioning benefits, the community, right? Because it's like something like jiu-jitsu or any hard martial art, combat martial art will weed out people with big egos, right? And you know that, right? Because it's like it's ego crushing.
Yeah.
So it's good people generally for the most part. It's good people. And the other really important thing is the very clear hierarchy that's built on performance, right? So when you walk into your school, you know who the best guy is, and you know what it's like to fight that guy, and you know who the worst guy is, and you know what it's like to fight that guy, and you know very clearly where you stand, right? And there's no bullshit.
An objective hierarchy.
It's very clearly objective because that day you can test yourself against each other, right? So I think that's something that's lost in almost every aspect of modern society. The hierarchies are just based on whatever people value, whether like in school, it's like silly things like what clothes you wear or what places you go to or what shows you watch or whatever thing kids dream up, right? In business, it's like, it's a forced hierarchy, right? It's like, it's social, but then it's also like this person is the boss because they're the boss, right?
Right.
But in jiu-jitsu, it doesn't work that way. In hard physical things like weightlifting and jiu-jitsu, for example, there's a very clear hierarchy because it's objective, right? And you also get all those other benefits of just like having a hard physical effort multiple times a week. I think in the book, in Starting Strength, Rip says it's substitute caveman activity, right? Lifting weights is. And that fits beautifully with martial arts, especially with something like wrestling or jiu-jitsu. It's caveman activity, right? And we need that, man. We need that. Like we need that to be whole.
Right.
So I start there when I'm talking to people because I don't necessarily think it's valuable to make it like a scary thing. Like just like with lifting, like some people take this approach. It's like if you don't do this, you're gonna be frail and sick and weak, and you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get injured, right? That's all true potentially, right? But it's far more satisfying and easier for me to be like, these are all the cool benefits of this, And by the way, you could kick someone's ass if you needed to, right? And hopefully you don't ever need to. Because the truth is, man, the people who can afford to train here and the people who can afford to train at our barbell gyms, they're not living dangerous lives. You know what I'm saying? There are people we will work with who are putting themselves in situations, right? Like if you work with law enforcement or military folks, and that's a kind of a different situation. It's a little bit more focused. But I think most of the people I interact with in a professional sense, for the most part, are living comfortable, safe lives in safe places where they're not likely to deal with a self-defense situation. Now, that's not to say that it can't happen, right? It can happen, and the statistics are that if at some point in your life something like that will happen, and it might be from somebody right? Especially for like the women and kids out there. So for sure, I'm not discounting that things happen, but do you understand what I'm saying? I don't like when I'm talking to somebody, I don't start there. I start with like all the cool stuff, because I think that appeals to people better. But again, personally for myself, and when I talk to some individual folks, a lot of us have this self-defense mentality, this capability mentality, right? It's like you need to be more capable, even just to be more whole, so to speak, as a man, Right. And I don't get into like the manliness shit, like that's not my thing. Yeah. But it is the truth, in terms of like.
The manliness shit sounds very corny. Yeah, let's go back to that manhood thing because I used a bad word. It's too cliche right now, and I don't like to talk in like using that word. But the point is, and you said something here, it makes you more whole as a man, something like that you said, and I agree. I think that the modern world, I don't know if it's like talking about a third person or just like an accident of history, but violence has been taken away from men.
For sure.
And there is a void that some of us wake up to and many others don't even realize. But as you were talking about, even when you're like a kid, the natural thing to do for play is wrestling around with other kids.
Right.
And then at some point, it gets removed from our lives.
Yep.
And there is a void. Now, you were talking half jokingly about the silly sports and hobbies that your wife supports. I disagree, but I know you were joking. These are not silly hobbies because if you look at it from like a logical standpoint, and you just have like, let's say 5 hours to devote to physical activity a week, what are you going to do with that time? And the average male is going to play soccer, basketball, he's going to run, or right now in Mexico, what's hot is the racket sports.
Pickleball, yeah.
Pickleball, yeah, dude.
Yeah. It's huge here too.
It's
let me clarify real quick, because what I meant by that was, like in most relationships, husband, wife, kids, the things like your shooting hobby and your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu hobby to the wife, it's like, that's a silly thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it kind of is. I mean, in the like when people have other stresses going on, right? So that's kind of what I meant there, because I think a lot of like, I have to be realistic in understanding that most people are busy, and this isn't their job, this isn't their life, and they're only going to be able to devote X amount of hours per week to this kind of stuff, right? So one of the things that I try to do is like, when people talk to me, is like, dude, you gotta, because everybody gets excited and they want to do it all the time, right? Yeah. But it's like, if you want to make this sustainable long term, if this is something you enjoy, you got to balance it with your life. And probably the hardest part of that is going to be at home, right? Because how many hours are you gone? Right. And at some point, your spouse is going to say to you, hey, dude, like you can't be at jiu-jitsu 5 days a week. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. When I was talking about that, I was talking about how it was like, I feel fortunate that I haven't had to deal with that necessarily. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but my the way I wanted to direct this conversation is to all men who are in this position where they do physical activity just for fun. Yeah, I think they're missing out on other stuff. And the way I look at it, unfortunately, I'm like semi-autistic, extremely logical. The way I see it is, if I'm going to do something, I want to maximize the economy, right? Of course. So that means, in like more plain terms, I want to shoot 4 birds with one shot. Yeah. And those forwards, if we're talking about sports or physical activity, you want it to be fun, yes, if possible, but you also want it to be functional
and efficient.
You want it to be metabolic, to actually work up your conditioning and get you to burn more fat.
Yes.
And you want it to help you build a skill that translates into life forever.
Absolutely.
And that's the definition of martial arts, as opposed to the actual silly sports that are happening today. And this is just like I see it and I'm like, dude, guys, wake up.
Go
to
learn
this.
how to fight, man.
Like, you're deceived by these curtains of sports for the masses.
Yeah.
And you want to do what these guys do, and like you even get to a point where you see sports stars as your role models.
Yeah.
And
it's weird, right?
It's so weird. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
Yeah.
And then how do you make people understand this? Because this is important. That like the violence has been removed from us, and
I agree 100%.
You're trying to replace it with something that's like not even 10% of what this at the dojo can give us as men.
Because all sports are really like simulated war, right?
Yes.
Simulated battle.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's ultimately what it is like you have some physical element and your objective is to beat the opponent, right? Martial arts, especially like the more combat based, you know, I don't really, whatever the term is, right? The ones that are actually like real fighting, get you closer, right? Much closer.
Yeah.
The stakes are lower, right? I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is you may like, you may injure a joint. You know, you're not going to die essentially unless you're training in a particularly weird way. But it gets you as close as you can get, right? And I totally agree, man. We don't have in our current comfortable modern society, and it's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing at all. But we don't have a relationship with violence at all. Very few people do. And there's a lot of downside, obviously, that comes with having a relationship with violence. But I think we have to understand that it's an important part of our existence. And if you have an opportunity to be able to expose yourself to controlled violence in a safe environment, for most people, most of the time, you should definitely do that, right? So, like, even if it just means like owning a firearm and learning how to use it, right? At least you have some thing in your mind that says, this is a firearm and it kills people, and I have the power to do that, right? Again, not as good as like actually learning how to fight, but you have to have some level of relationship with violence.
Yes, you have to have familiarization with it, so that you can actually be a better person to society in general. And then if more men understand how to control and will violence and actually in a responsible way take control of it, I bet 100% that society overall would benefit a lot, because you'd be making men stronger. So yeah, I mean, that's where it's at. Agreed, man. Agreed.
Yeah. So with things that you can do, right? The problem that we're always dealing with is, and this applies to barbell training and to something like jiu-jitsu. It's hard, man. You know, and people don't want to do like this. All this stuff we're talking about no longer having the physical outlets, no longer having the relationship with violence, no longer having like, all of our like our thinking and our emotional states are all tied to hard physical effort. I think that's our default level of existence is hard physical effort. And the further you get away from that, the sillier things get, right? And you can see it, man. I mean, the people who are the silliest out in the world, you know, just saying and doing ridiculous things, look at what they look like. Right? Yeah. It's obvious that they don't have any relationship with their actual body. You know what I mean? In terms of like how it works and what it can do and how it can perform, and they don't push, right? It's almost like you hear somebody say something ridiculous on the internet or in person, and without even seeing them, like you can picture what they look like, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, the further away you get from that, the more dangerous I think things come for us, for us in terms of, bigger picture stuff, like just being convinced of silly things, or being controlled by a government, or being controlled by just the products and things that you consume. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a way bigger issue than people think.
Of course.
Yeah.
100%.
Because if you're not involved in hard physical effort, your brain is weak and soft.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably the best way to say it. Right?
And if you have lots of weak and soft brains, then it follows that maybe society is not where it could be.
Exactly.
In terms of potential and the progress we could be making. We should be in Mars already right now.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
no, I agree, man. Yeah, there's and for men specifically, you've got to set an example, I think, for your children too. There's going to be a time where, and I remember when this happened for me, but there comes a time when you realize your dad is not like the strongest dude in the world, and he's not the superhero that you think when he's, and not, I mean, that sounds bad, but I know my kids are going to be there soon. They're going to be at that age soon, if they're not already. I think my son armbarred me the other day, and I was like, oh man, and like legit for real armbarred me.
Wow.
I think that's like the first, like he's caught me before in things, but this is like the first one that is like beautiful setup. He's 16, just got his blue belt. And I was like 100%, that was all you. So, that's great for me as a dad, as a coach, but at the same time I was like, shit, now he thinks he can beat me. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying? So there's that you've got to, you want to push that, in my opinion, you want to push that off as far as you can. It's like, don't let them start thinking you're not who they think you are at the age of 11.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As like at 15, 16, 17, 18, that's natural, right? You have to start separating yourself from your parents, and becoming your own person. But don't accelerate that process by being a piece of shit.
Right.
By being just a slob and not having any physical capability at all. Because then all of your other faults are just kind of like, well, yeah, my dad is a slob, my mom is a slob. Of course, I don't like them or what. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this may be my own shit, but I think that's really important. You got to be setting an example for your children.
Of course. Well, Nick, thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation. Again, I thank you for being a part of this in my life, and I'm not planning on stopping any soon.
Awesome.
I want to advance into other martial arts and eventually also maybe learn how to use guns and things. I think it's like a ladder of things that you need to start to acquire as you advance, and especially as you grow older as a male.
Yep.
So thank you for all the knowledge that you share. Thank you for having this academy, and I hope that you continue doing what you like, sharing with us, and we just continue like seeing each other and choking each other, man.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.